Welcome to class PM. I have a question. Like, how many of you want to become astronauts? Right? You might be wondering, like, what is that I'm going to speak? Yes. See, most of us love science and most of us love enjoying looking at the stars every day. Right? See, usually when you go to your grandparents' village, definitely you see that there are so many stars which are in the sky, in the bright sky. But unfortunately, in the cities, we may not be able to see so many, say like countless dots on the sky, which are said to be stars. Do you know what is the reason why can't we find bright stars in cities usually? That is because of the pollution which covers the sky, right? So that is the reason we are not able to see. But most of us have a lot of pleasure when you just go out, sleep and look at the sky and wonder how these countless stars twinkle in the sky. And right, there is also a rhyme for KG children like twinkle twinkle little star, right? So the stars usually make change your mood, and we love to see stars. And there are so many people who actually, there are so many children nowadays who have come up with bright ideas of like, why shouldn't we go and look at these stars, or why shouldn't we go and see what is there in the space, right? So that has led to many contributions in the science, like children like you people now like long back they have become scientists, and they have seen that there are so many things in the sky apart from stars and moon, right? So these now you might have understood that we are going to learn about stars and the solar system. So we are going to learn about stars and the solar system. So when you talk about stars, as I've told you, all of us love looking at the stars which seem to be bright dots, right? So the stars will definitely cause a pleasant feeling, right? So we know that the stars are luminous or non-luminous. They are luminous bodies. What do you mean by luminous bodies? Stars are luminous. Luminous means which produce their own light. So they can produce their own light, and apart from the star, apart from the moon, there are also other objects which are present in the space, right? And do you know what are these different objects, like comets, meteors, asteroids, and there are so many things in the space, and all these different objects which are present in the space are called as celestial bodies. What are they called? Celestial objects or celestial bodies. So these celestial objects or celestial bodies include stars, moon, asteroids, comets, constellations, galaxies, planets, etc. So see, you can see the space has a very huge family of celestial objects like stars, moon, asteroids, comets, constellations, galaxies, planets, and many more, right? So when we talk about moon, right, we know that moon is a wonderful object, right? And every one of us love looking at the moon. And I think when you were very young, your mother might have sung a lullaby based on the moon, right? And there are many poets who actually take the moon as their inspiration to write up the stories or poems, right? So this moon is like, you can say, Chanda Mama, right? It is Mama for everyone, and everyone loves looking at the moon. And most of the times the beauty of the lady is also admired, appreciated or admired, comparing it to a moon, right? So this, you might have seen, will the shape of the moon and the size of the moon, you know that the shape of the moon, when you look at a complete moon, you see that the shape of the moon is round, right? Oval, round shaped, right? And is this shape being continued like every day? Sometimes we see that the shape of the moon gradually decreases, and sometimes the shape of the moon gradually increases. So the phase where the shape of the moon gradually decreases will retain for 14 days or 14 days. You know, the whole moon which is seen is said to be a full moon, right? Full moon. And this, after the full moon, you see that gradually the size of the moon decreases after 14 days, and that is said to be a new moon. That means gradually the full moon will decrease down where there is a situation where you don't find moon at all, and that situation is said to be new moon. And do you know what are the various shapes of this are said to be? Various stages of the moon or shapes of the moon said to be the phases of the moon. Okay, now let us see the phases of the moon. We know that moon keeps regularly changing, right? So we have seen there are so many celestial objects in the space. Now, we have also learned that the stage of the moon or the shape of the moon keeps changing. Right, now let us represent it in the form of a diagram and let us look at the phases of the moon. So, we know that every 15 days there is a new moon and a full moon. So, well, let us start with the new moon. So, once you see the new on the day of new moon, you may not find moon, right? You will not find moon. But after the new moon day, you see that slowly the new moon, the waning crescent starts. You can see a small arc which is formed in the sky, which will begin the moon to grow in its size. That is said to be waning crescent. And slowly the crescent shaped moon will develop into a quarter moon, which is said to be waning quarter. In the same way, slowly 3/4 of the moon will be seen, which is said to be waning gibbous. Right, and you see that there is a full moon after 15 days. So this is the cycle from new moon to the full moon, and this process of moon development of the moon right from the new moon to a full moon is said to be waning period. What is it called? Waning period. Now, after the full moon, you see that gradually the size of the moon keeps decreasing. So you see that once the full moon is formed, slowly the 1/4 of the moon, the size of 1/4 size of the moon gets reduced, and it is called as waxing gibbous. And slowly the only half moon is seen, which is said to be waxing quarter. And gradually you see that after like almost close to 13 days and 14 days, you see that only a crescent moon is seen, waxing crescent. That is called as waxing crescent. Only a crescent moon is seen, and after that you see the next year there is no moon, and that is said to be new moon. So these are the different phases of the moon you keep seeing every 15 days, which is known as a new moon day and a full moon day. And most of us believe that sometimes this cycle or the phases of the moon are extended beyond 29 days, and which is considered to be 1 month. So we all know that moon is a non-luminous body. Moon is a non-luminous body. We are able to see the moon because the moon absorbs the light from the sun and reflects it onto the earth. That is the reason you are able to see the bright moon. You are able to see the bright moon. That means it is a non-luminous which will always receive light from the sun and reflects it back to the earth. Now, we have seen the phases of the moon, and we have also known that moon is a non-luminous, but it can only emit light because of the reflection. Now, let us see how the surface of the moon looks like. Now, let us talk about moon's surface. See, when you look at the moon, the sight of the moon seems to be very pleasant and very peaceful, right? And you know, as I've told you, the moon is the most fascinating object for many of the poets to build up their stories or to write poems, right? So, but when astronauts for the first time landed, you know, Neil Armstrong was the first person who landed on the moon, right? So when they landed on the moon, they found that the surface of the moon is not as smooth as we see every day. It is a barren and dusty land, and there are so many craters which are present on the surface of the moon. What is a crater? Yeah, I'll tell you. Crater is nothing but it is a opening of a volcano. There is a mouth for the volcano to eject the lava out, right? So this mouth or the bowl part or a bowl shaped part of a volcano through which the lava comes out is said to be crater. So this moon has so many craters in it, and you know, there are so many mountains which are as high as we have the mountains on the earth too. And as I've told you, this moon has no atmosphere, and you cannot expect any life to stay there because there is no water, there is no air. And you might have a question like, can we hear when we are on the moon? Right? Obviously, as I've told you in the previous classes when we studied about the sound needs a medium for propagation, that is air. And we know that in space there is no air, it is completely vacuum. That's the reason you will not be able to hear anything. So this is about the moon and its surface. And when you talk about the stars, so when you see the stars twinkling in the sky during the night time, you feel that they are very bright, beautiful, right? And you know, almost they are of same color, and there are few bright stars, and there are few stars which are present in groups, and there are few stars which are present individually. And we see that the star seems to be a dot in the sky. When you look at the sun, it seems to be a very huge ball. Now, tell me, why does a star seems to be a very small one, but whereas you can see the sun as the brightest fire of football? That is because the sun is located very near to the earth, but whereas stars are present millions of kilometers away from the sun. That means they are present above the sun so many kilometers away from the earth that we will be seeing them only as a spot. If I tell you exactly, the sun is almost 150 million kilometers away from us, but whereas the stars which are present almost 400 millions kilometers away. That is the reason we will not be able to see the stars clearly, but we only see them as a dotted structure or the spots on the clear sky. So in fact, there is a thing like there are stars which are present during daytime also, but we are not able to see the stars. That is because the sunlight is so bright that the light which is emitted from the star will not be sufficient so that we will be able to see them. That is the reason we are not able to see the stars during daytime, and during night time we know that the light which is emitted from the moon is very little because it will only reflect the light which it has absorbed. That is the reason we see the stars twinkling bright in the sky, and we see that the stars appear to move from east to west. Right? If the star rises in the east in the evening, and in the morning you see that they set in the west. So what does this indicate? This indicates that the earth might have taken a movement from east to west. Earth might have taken a movement from east to west, right? In the same way, the moon also moves on its own axis. At the same time, it will also take one revolution around the Earth. So there is a fascinating fact about the star. There is a star called as pole star which is actually present at the pole of the Earth, and it doesn't move. It is in the direction of the Earth's axis. That is the reason it is said to be a pole star, and it does not move.